Hello and welcome. I'm Jeffrey Mishlove. Today we're going to be examining the concept of enlightenment. Why is it that people throughout the world, in almost every religious tradition and cultural tradition, pursue the notion of enlightenment? What is enlightenment? Is there such a thing? Is it possible to attain enlightenment? With me today is Mr. U.G Krishnamurti, a world traveler and author of Mind is a Myth and The Mystique of Enlightenment. Welcome, U.G.
Thank you.
You know, people often have referred to you as an enlightened being, and I know you're very uncomfortable with that. In fact, you told me earlier you're uncomfortable with the concept of being at all.
Yes. You see, the question arises only in relationship with becoming. And enlightenment is also becoming, you see. So I would go one step further and say that the human mind, if I may use that word, quote and unquote, is interested only in sensual activity. You know, the living organism or the human body, or whatever you want to call it, is only responding to the stimuli. It is not interested in pleasure at all. See, the moment you use thought to experience anything in terms of pleasure, it becomes a pain for this body.
And yet we pursue sensuality and yet find only pain in it.
But we love pain, in other words, we enjoy pain and call it pleasure. You see, the human body is not interested in pleasure of any kind. It is only interested in maintaining the sensitivity of the nervous system and the sensitivity of the functioning of the body. So the moment you say a particular sensation is a pleasurable sensation, the demand to make it last longer goes with it. So then the demand to make the pleasure last longer turns what we call pleasure into pain, and that's a painful sensation to the body. The body is trying to be rid of that pleasurable sensation, and what we are stuck with is pain.
It almost sounds as if the greater the pleasure, then the greater the pain must be.
We have introduced the degree into that, what is called pleasure, you see, because the thought is always interested in more and more of something and less of the other. I'm not saying anything against pleasure. See, the moment you use thought as an instrument to have pleasure, we have there created a problem. Since man has realized, since I don't like to use the word man or a human being or in general terms, the average man, see, that man is you and I sitting here. So since this demand for permanent happiness is something which cannot be achieved through anything, any thinking that is open to us, we have projected and created what is called enlightenment, God, self-realization, call it by whatever name you like. So that is the ultimate pleasure.
There are stories out of India, you've probably heard, of great saints who are supposedly in states of perpetual sexual orgasm.
That is what these gurus are selling in the marketplace today. You see, even sex is something that the body does not care for. It's a painful thing. And that is necessary for only one purpose, to reproduce one like that. The living organism is interested only two things. It's a survival and then it's the reproduction. So when once the thought is involved in turning sex into pleasure, we have created a problem. It is the same thought that makes you feel that, you see, the pleasure, you see, can be extended into one of degree, into longer and longer time, and then you see, keep it going, and so it is more painful to this body.
You almost sound Victorian in your approach here.
I am not Victorian. The sex is totally unrelated to the question of enlightenment. You see, whether it has become fashionable these days for all these people to market sex as the means or the stepping stones to enlightenment. But actually and factually, the sex is totally unrelated to what is called enlightenment. Whether you deny yourself sex or indulge in sex, it is of no importance to what you are searching for. But in a culture where, you see, the denial of sex is maintained as a sine qua non or an essential thing for your spiritual goal, unfortunately, the the gurus in the marketplace who are selling that enlightenment invented this thing called this tantric experience, and use that as a means to achieve your spiritual goal.
Right, it's either tantric here or abstinence there, and what you're saying
both
is...
are the same. They are totally unrelated to the question of enlightenment. When once you see the question of enlightenment or the demand for an enlightenment is freed from sex totally, either as a means to it or the denial of it as a means to it, we can look at it in a different way and ask the question, is there any such thing as enlightenment at all? We have accepted, taken for granted that there is such a thing as enlightenment, but we never questioned that, because when once you question the whole idea of enlightenment, or as you put it, the concept of enlightenment, we are questioning the teachers who have talked about it, and we have invested our tremendous faith in them. So the sentiment comes into the picture, and we accept that as a gospel truth.
Well, yes, we have this notion of the great sages of antiquity and in many different cultures have written and talked about higher states of consciousness and enlightenment.
That is true, but I am questioning the very consciousness itself. Is there any such thing as consciousness? That is my question. So you become conscious of yourself and the world around you only through the help of the knowledge that is given to us by these so-called sages, saints, and saviors of mankind. So is it possible for you to be conscious of anything without the help of that knowledge? So we have to question the very thing that we have taken for granted. We are very naive and to accept it, and then you see, spend a whole lifetime in search of whatever you want to have, it enlightenment, God realization, self-realization, or what you have.
In other words, it seems as if there's a paradox here, because on the one hand, our consciousness, it seems as if it leads us to question the tradition, the so-called truths that are handed down to us, and you're saying, but without that tradition, without those truths, we would have no consciousness.
You know, that is part of the structure of our thinking. You see, unfortunately, the thought has divided itself into two, and created, you see, this duality or the neurotic situation for us. The whole culture teaches us that you should not compete. Competition is to be eschewed. Ambition is something which you should not, you see, have.
Spiritual teachings tend to say this.
Spiritual teachings, yes, always.
I mean, certainly in athletics and in capitalism, there is this sense of
demand that you should be free from ambition, you should be free from greed, you should be free from this, that, and the other. But at the same time, ambition is absolutely necessary for survival in the society in which we are functioning today. So it is that has created the neurotic situation for us. We want pleasure, and at the same time we know that the pleasure is giving us pain. So the demand for permanence is the basic demand of thought. It is interested in permanence. The permanence not of this living organism, but the permanence of the continuity of thought. So the body knows in a way that it is permanent. You see, not in the sense in which we know that this is permanent, that is not permanent, but that knowledge is of a peculiar kind that it knows it is permanent. So it is not interested in the idea that this is coming to an end one day, you see. So the one that is involved in this pleasure moment is the one that is asking the question, what will happen to this living organism when it dies? You see, for the body, there is no such thing as death at all. So because it has no way of experiencing the fact that it is alive at this moment and that it is dead after 60, 70, 80 or 100 years at all.
Are you saying then that the body doesn't die, but what about the spirit?
That is the belief, the self, the soul, the spirit, and whatever you want to call it is invented by thought. And it is that thought that is responsible for experiencing this, what we call thought, because what you call self, spirit, or soul, or whatever you want to call, I don't want to indulge in the frivolity of the root meaning of the words. You see, the Latin word, spirit is a Latin word.
They have to do with breathing, generally.
It means breathing.
Mm-hmm.
So you have observed, you see, but an individual stopped breathing, and that condition you described it as death. So the fact that you see the breathing stop, you want to know if there is anything that will continue after death. You see, it is that is interested in demanding to know what will survive this condition of the body which is called death.
Yeah. I mean, I would tend to think that my body will not survive. My body will decay, but perhaps my ability to experience at some level will survive.
But can you experience your body while you are living now? You see, if one wants to know anything about death, he has to find out what is it that is there now and not wait until what we call the death takes place. So do you have any way of experiencing the fact that you are alive today? I say no.
Oh.
You see, the doctor comes and examines you and tells you that this is your blood pressure, this is the temperature for your body, your heart is breathing, your blood pressure, so on and so forth. So you are alive. So you are trying to use that knowledge and experience what you call a living being. But without the help of that knowledge, which is passed on to us by observation of all these doctors, and experience and tell yourself that you are a living being. So when once you are freed from the knowledge, you have no way of experiencing that you are alive today, and there is no question of experiencing when you are dead. I'm giving the talk.
Well, Descartes, a great Western philosopher, said, "I think, therefore I am." And you seem to be suggesting that thinking is the opposite of living.
I think that Descartes, I studied Western philosophy, and he asked a wrong question and answered it in a very funny way. We think, I think, therefore I am. But he never asked the question which you should have asked, the way the Indian philosophers did. If you don't think, are you there?
Uh-huh.
So the basic question which we have to ask is, what is thinking and why do we think at all? If you don't think, there is still the question there, you see. The question is born out of the assumption that there is something there. And that is why he has come out with this statement, I think, therefore I am. If you don't think, where is that I am?
Mm-hmm. Well, isn't it true that when we talk of enlightenment, the great sages of India have said when you stop thinking, you can enter into this vast ocean of bliss, and that's enlightenment.
The bliss is the bliss, or whatever you want to call it, is essential pleasure that we are indulging in. They may have experienced some extraordinary moment, which he described it as a bliss, and tried to share it with us. And that created the problem of us all trying to experience the same thing. So that is the way the knowledge is passed on from generation to generation. That is the way you are also experiencing things. Without knowledge, you have no way of experiencing anything at all. And when once you experience, that experience strengthens and fortifies the knowledge. So this vicious circle goes on and on and on and on. And that structure has no way of breaking through that, you see, vicious circle. Mm-hmm. So we accept that knowledge is necessary for us to experience, and the experience strengthens the knowledge. So do we really want, you see, to find out or demand the way out of it, you see?
Mm-hmm. Yes. How is there a way out?
There is no way out. Because the question is posed by the thought. And by asking this question, the thought knows that it has no answer. So that is the only way it can maintain its continuity. You see, the thought has invented time. The thought has invented what is called space. You see, without the help of the knowledge we have of space and the knowledge we have of time, there is no time, there is no space. The scientists may talk and say anything they like, but they are also saying that there is no such thing as time, there is no such thing as space, there is no such thing as matter, but what is called space-time continuum. Is there a space? I question that. Is there a time? The moment the thought is born, the time is there. So it is that has invented what is called the timeless, and pursuing that timeless, and it knows that it has no way of putting itself in a timeless state because the thought has to be absent in a so-called timeless state. It is an invention of the time to perpetuate itself within the field of time.
Well, it sounds like we're trapped.
We are trapped, and the very demand to get out of the trap is really the problem. See, there is no answer to that at all.
Well, are you suggesting then that in the history of humankind there have never been enlightened persons?
No, I am not for a moment saying that there is no such thing as an enlightened being. We have plenty of them, you see. But I question the very the demand to be enlightened. You see, as I said at the very beginning, to me, there is no such thing as enlightenment at all. You see, the enlightenment is in the future. As I said a while ago, it is the time that has invented the thing in the future. The future is always, it puts the enlightenment there. So the enlightenment is part of the knowledge that is passed on to us from these great teachers who claim to be enlightened people. And it is the past that is in operation here, projecting into a future a thing called enlightenment. So first of all, is there any such thing as the present? I say there is no such thing as present. There is no such thing as now. There is no such thing as the moment here. Because if you say this is the moment, this is the present, this is the now, you have already brought into this picture the past. In the past I was not enlightened, so I am going to be enlightened tomorrow. But what about now? So am I enlightened or am I not enlightened? What is it that tells me that I am enlightened, that I am not enlightened, that I am free and not free? It is the knowledge that tells me that I am not free, that I am not enlightened. So if you are not enlightened now, you are going to be enlightened tomorrow. I don't know if I make myself clear.
There's a paradox here somehow, because I guess it strikes me that if one is really enlightened, there's a transcending of space and time, so that if one is enlightened, it's always there.
So assuming for a moment that there is an enlightened being,
yes,
he has no way of telling himself that he is an enlightened man, and there is no question of his trying to enlighten others.
I mean, as soon as I say I am enlightened, I've already come back.
The knowledge about enlightenment passed on to us from generations tells you that you are an enlightened man. You see? So then naturally you want to enlighten others. So it is a petty little experience which has become possible for me through the help of this thought. So what I experience and call an enlightenment is a thought-induced experience and not really an enlightenment at all.
You mean every description of enlightenment is essentially an illusion?
Why are we concerned about enlightenment at all?
Well, it seems like
a way out.
Yeah, what else is there to do?
The way out, you see. So you are putting off the problem to a future date. What I am suggesting is that there are no problems at all. You see, what we are stuck with is the solutions offered to us by the people who you think and I think are in the know of things, that they have the right solutions for the problems. But those solutions have not helped us to resolve our problems. But somehow we are caught up in this field of time, and time is hope. You see, it tells us that by repeating the same thing over and over again, you will be able to solve this problem. So these solutions have not helped us to solve the problems at all. We are looking here and there and everywhere to find out somebody who can offer us another solution to solve our problems. But one who is interested to resolve the problem must be ready to brush aside, you see, all the solutions offered by these saints, sages and saviors of mankind in the past and in the present and yet to be unborn.
In other words, to truly be free, to truly be enlightened, one has to give up every concept of enlightenment or every notion of this tradition that we've inherited.
You are talking as if the concept and you are two different things. The demand for enlightenment and you are two different things. So there is no way you can separate yourself from the concepts.
But you just said that's essential to do.
That is essential to do is a manner of speaking, is a way of putting things.
It's essential and yet impossible at the same time.
You are not ready to come to terms that there is no problem here and that you are stuck with all the solutions offered to us by those in whom we have absolute confidence, faith and trust, and yet they don't work. The instrument which we are using is the one that is born out of hope. You see, what you are today is the totality of all your thoughts, feelings and experiences. That instrument is the only instrument we have, and it is a very powerful instrument. That instrument has helped us to achieve whatever we have achieved so far today. So we are not ready to discard that instrument. And at the same time we know that understanding through the help of that instrument has not helped us to resolve our problems at all. And yet we have not given up our confidence, tremendous faith in the instrument which we have been using to achieve our results. So that is really the crux of the problem. So when once the understanding dawns on you that is not the instrument which will help you to understand and solve your problems, and that there is no other instrument, the demand to solve the problems ceases and instantly. So there is no such thing as understanding at all. How I stumbled into this is something which I have no way of knowing. Somehow it dawned on me that the intellect which I have developed through sharpening it, using it, has no way of understanding anything. And at the same time, the tremendous faith in that instrument lingered. That is the only instrument. I do not know of any other instrument. That's the only instrument I have. And it has not helped me to resolve anything, to understand anything. And somehow it dawned on me that is not the instrument and there is no other instrument. So that means it knocks off the whole basis of any other way of trying to understand anything. So the whole idea of intuition goes down the drain and down the tube.
Why? Why does intuition go down the tube?
Intuition is nothing but a refined, sensitized thought, if I may put it that way.
Yes.
So, but it is still, caught up, in this, the use of thought to resolve, the problems.
Well, wouldn't it be better at least to have refined, sensitive thoughts rather than crude, insensitive
But what is
thoughts?
the difference? What is the difference between a crude thought and a sensitive thought?
Well, in Western tradition in the 18th century, we had a notion of the Enlightenment, which meant, being free of superstition, at least being able to see things as they are.
But are we free from superstition? Why do we swallow everything that every scientist dishes out every day? We say it is scientific, but it is not so scientific. They are as dogmatic as the religious people of the bygone days. But because what science has given us, the technology, we invest tremendous faith, in the scientists. Every 4 years, their theories are changing. As I said the other day, their interest in trying to find out the fundamental particle is research in vain, but they will go on and on and on and on and on. They are not going to give up anyway.
I mean, the intellectual effort to solve the mystery of the physical universe is in vain.
Is in vain because of the fact that The scientist is separating himself from the universe. It is a single unit, you see. The nature and man are not two different things. As I said before, a while ago or last time, that somewhere along, you see, the evolutionary process, this self-consciousness occurred in the human species. You see.
But how do you know we're not actually separate? How do you know that the self-consciousness is not valid?
You know, it is the thought that creates the space, as I said. Thought is space. So let me give you an example.
We have about a minute left.
This is in touch with this.
Yes.
What is it that tells you that this is hard? The knowledge that it is hard is the thought, and the thought creates the space between the two and tells that this is hard. Otherwise, there is no space between the two, and there is no way that the sense of touch can tell you that this is hard and not soft.
I mean, even something as basic as the sense of touch, something we take so for granted, is really just another thought process.
Another thought process. So thought is a space, thought creates a space, and in that space we function. So the space is something which can never be experienced by thought. So,
we're trapped in our own thoughts, and our thoughts can never really even see themselves.
It has no way of looking at itself. You see, what you see there, the very question, is there a thought, or the interest, the demand to look at thought is created by thought. So what you see there is about thought and not thought itself.
U.G Krishnamurti, thank you very much for being with me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for being with us. Hello and welcome. I'm Jeffrey Mishlove with U.G Krishnamurti, and we're continuing our discussion on the nature and the mystique of enlightenment. U.G.,
yes,
the various traditions, particularly from Asia, emphasize meditation as a path to enlightenment, and sometimes it's quite specific. If you meditate for so many years, you will be enlightened. And you know, there's lineages of enlightened master after enlightened master who followed a formula, a recipe almost, and seem to have been then anointed by their master as being enlightened beings.
You see, well, all that has gone out of my system. Yes. So what I have stumbled into is something extraordinary for me. This is not something that is born out of my thinking. See, I am not putting across a logically a certain premise here. And I'm not thinking at all. There's no thinking involved in what I'm saying. It might come as a shock to you, if not as a surprise, that there is nobody who is talking here. And this is a puppet here, and you are pulling, you see, and you are the one that is responsible, whatever is coming out of me. And so if you ask me questions about Hinduism, the techniques of meditation, and what they do, I have nothing to say on that subject at all. I, in my own way, did everything, you see, that one is asked, that I was asked by my teachers, followed everything, you see, that is there in the book, practiced every kind of meditation and got nowhere. I discovered that, you see, it was something in the nature of a violence, you see. The goal of meditation is peace. Yeah. There is already peace here. This is a tremendously peaceful living organism. And why in the name of God, why in the name of enlightenment, I am asked to meditate to reach a goal which I consider to be, you see, a silly goal, non-existing goal, through meditation, you see. So why am I meditating? What is this meditation for? That was my question, basic question. So I discovered that, you see, the goal of silence placed before me as a goal to be reached through one technique or 100 techniques of meditations, it doesn't matter, is the very one that is disturbing and destroying the silence that is already there. Whereas I discovered that, you see, the silence that was there is something in the nature of a volcano erupting, you see. So you go and stand before an ocean, the roar of ocean. You go into a jungle, what do you hear? See the tremendous, you see, sound there, So that is the silence, and through meditation I am creating a dead innate state of mind, you see. It is the mind that is involved in what is called meditation, you see. So it is interested in creating a peaceful mind. We don't realize, I'm not saying anything about what the Hindus mean by meditation. I'm not interested in that, you see. I'm not here expounding the cause of Hinduism at all, you see. What I have stumbled into, what I have discovered is something extraordinary for me. So I don't even accept that there is such a thing as a meditative state at all, you see. It is all techniques of meditations, if I may use a very, very crude word, is a sort of self-abuse. You see, it gives us, you see, the feeling that we are putting ourselves into a state of silence, into a state of God knows what, you see. So if you practice one technique, if you see one, you have seen them all. There is no reason why we should try 100 different techniques of meditation. But the basic question which we have to ask ourselves is, why do we meditate at all? What for?
It's a very ancient practice.
It is I cannot defend or brush aside the ancient practice. I am not interested in that at all. You see, there is an idea that is given to us that there is such a thing as peace of mind, you see, the silent mind, that there is a void, you see, that you should not be occupied with certain thoughts and you should be preoccupied with another set of thoughts.
Yes.
But you are always preoccupied with something or the other. At no time, so you can say that you are not occupied with something or the other. But all your energy is wasted in choosing between two thoughts. You see, this thought, I want a peaceful thought, and the other one is a violent thought. And there is an actual battle going on between these two thoughts. And one thought that you say is a peaceful thought, and the other thought is a violent thought. So what you are stuck with is a battle, a war between two things. And what you experience and call that a silent mind, or the experience of a silent mind, is the peace between two wars. And then it starts all over again. And you constantly battle with, you see, the idea that, you see, this meditation or that technique of meditation is going to put you into a peaceful state of mind. So there is no such thing as a peaceful state of mind.
So the idea of peacefulness may be the illusion you described.
It is the mind that is responsible for the disturbance that is there, and it has invented, you see, something called a silent mind, and battles with that, you see. That's all that is there.
Well, you've attained this insight that you're describing to me, and yet you say you practiced meditation for many, many years, and this practice of meditation had nothing to do with your own insights.
What I would go one step further and say that what I have stumbled into is something that has happened despite everything I did. And how I have stumbled into is something which I have no way of finding out for myself. So it is not the techniques of meditation, it is not the denial of sex, it is not a practice of control of breath, you see. This is a simple trick that we play with, you see, what you call breath control.
Yes.
When you carefully look at, you see, you have no way of looking at it, you have no way of seeing, you have no way of observing. See, that is really the problem. See, we are caught up in this idea that there is some way that you can observe, that you can look at, you see, and see, you see. But there is no way you can separate yourself from the breath, you see. So you want to separate yourself from breath and be aware of your breathing and watch it. And what for? See, you are not conscious or aware of the fact that you are breathing at this moment. And why do you want to be conscious or aware of breathing? And what for? To achieve a certain goal. What you are actually doing is cutting out the flow of oxygen into the brain, and that gives you all kinds of very peculiar experiences, and you dub them as spiritual experiences. So when once you experience something, the mechanism of experiencing structure is that it always demands more and more of the same,
Yes.
and less of the other.
But we seem very hungry for spiritual experiences, as if we have to collect them, like trying the newest drug or the latest guru or the latest tantric method.
It is no different from the way we collect millions. It's no way different from, you see, the way we acquire knowledge. So, you see, in a area where tremendous importance is given to spiritual experiences and not sensual experiences, you can, you see, sell this to somebody else. You see, I have all these spiritual experiences, you don't have, so I am superior to you. That is all that is there in this talk about the spiritual experiences. I know, you don't know. You see, so I am questioning the very the foundation of knowledge. You see, knowledge, there is no such thing as knowledge for the sake of knowledge. Knowledge is power. I know, you do not know. I am a free man, you are not a free man. So I have no way of knowing that I am a free man. You see, if I tell myself that I am a free man, it is the knowledge that is passed on to me that tells me that you are a free man. You see, you know, I have no way of knowing that I am a free man. So when once you are freed from the knowledge of all this freedom business, enlightenment business, the peace of mind business, you are no longer interested in finding out whether you are peaceful or not peaceful, whether there is a silence or there is no silence at all.
Let me shift a little bit with you. There are those who describe the path towards enlightenment as bhakti yoga, the path of the heart, opening up, loving. Sometimes they seem like they get a little bit gushy, but it seems to me
it's
that...
emotion. It's emotion, you see. The other day I was telling my friend, what part do tears play? The tears are there only to lubricate the eyes. They have no other part to play. So emotionally, you involve yourself and the eyes become dry. And then the nature has this, you see, facility to lubricate it in its own way. So that you call those tears, tears of joy. Yeah. But the tears are provided by this organism to protect itself, to protect its eyes. So it is lubricating the eyes. So they are not tears of joy at all. So when once you see, you think that this a man of great devotion is emotionally, you see, involved, you see, in this the joy, you see, of whatever he wants to call it. The eyes are drying up, and then you see the nature is its own way of lubricating and protecting itself, and that you say it is tears of joy.
But let's move beneath the sentimentality of it and to talk about, for example, human communication.
Yes.
Being able, for example, to recognize oneself in another human being.
Do we really do that? Is it possible for us to establish any relationship? The relationship that we establish with the other humans, human beings, is on the basis of what do I get out of that relationship. You see? So, mutual gratification is the foundation or the basis of all relationships, you see. So, you are not satisfied with the reality of the situation. It is so horrible for you to think that the basis on which you have established relationship with the other human beings, as you put it, is so sordid that you have to superimpose on that and call it is love, you see. So love implies two. And see, loving thy neighbor as thyself is so ridiculous, so absurd. In the name of loving thy neighbor as thyself, we have created so much of horror, so much of destruction, so much of killing, you see, in the name of love thy neighbor as thyself.
So are you totally cynical then about love?
A cynic is at least, you see, is sure that his feet are very firmly fixed on the ground. And it is the way out, you see, the cop out for the other man to call me a cynic because he doesn't want to accept the fact that really there is no love between these two individuals. What do I get out of this relationship? If that is denied, you will be surprised. What is there in the place of what you call love is hate. If not hate, it is apathy, indifference towards the other individual. So what I am trying to say is that it is just impossible to establish a relationship on any basis. There is no need for any relationship at all. The only relationships we have is in the basis, what do I get out of this relationship? Who wants relationship? A person who is lonely, who is lost. He wants to fill his emptiness. He wants to fill his void. And he uses some other individual to help him to fill this void, and he uses this fine word called love.
But aren't we all ultimately in that predicament?
We all are in that predicament. We are not honest enough to admit that we use some other individual to fill this emptiness, to fill this void, and to fill this loneliness. So we are using other individuals and put this fancy label, it is a loving relationship. And you may call me a cynic, you see, it's all right with me. But that is the reality of the situation. So anything that is born out of this relationship is violence.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily want to deny that what you describe as the sordid foundation of relationships, but surely they don't just stop at the foundation. I would think surely there are the heights to which relationships can aspire, and even if it's an unattainable height, it may be worth aspiring towards.
So we live in that hope and die in that hope. Why is it not possible for us to love the other individual here and now at this moment? Why does it have to be tomorrow? You see, tomorrow means, you see, you are pushing what you can do today. That's why I say, people call me a cynic, people call me a pessimist, people call me a nihilist, people call me this, that, and the other. And what they do not realize, I'm not blaming them, I'm just pointing out that when they use these terms as a cop-out, they use this to, when they use this, I point out that it is what you believe is the solution for your problems, is the one that is responsible for your frustration. What I am suggesting is a very positive thing here. And you call this a negative thing because you want this action to occur only there and not now. I don't know if I make myself clear. You see, you are only interested in all actions to happen only in the future and not now. See, you are not acting at all. You see, the action has got to be now. And why is it not possible for us to be kind, to be honest, to be loving, to be whatever you want to be now? And why does it have to be tomorrow? Or, you see, day after tomorrow? Why is my question. See, you are pushing it off something that you can do now and you don't want to act now. You see, that action is something which will destroy this sordid relationship you have established. I'm not saying that you means you.
But I'm here with you right now.
Yes, that we establish, you see, this sordid relationship and cover it up by saying that's a loving relationship, this brotherly relationship, this, that, and the other. The action implies freeing yourself from this sordid reality. And create, you see, if there is any other relationship possible outside of the field of whatever you call love, brotherhood, understanding, and so on. That is too much for us. So it is very convenient for us not to act, Action means this relationship comes to an end. What will be in its place is something you will not know, I will not know, nobody knows.
Earlier, you told me that there was nobody there.
Nobody here.
They're just words.
All words.
Uh-huh.
Are you ready to accept that?
I have a hard time. I think I'm talking to a human being.
See, I don't know if there is anybody who is talking. You see, what is it that I'm saying? You see, I have to bring this, the functioning of the body, your body, my body, everybody's body, into the present context. See, the senses are all independent. There is no coordination except when there is a need for cooperation. And that cooperation between 1, 2, 3 or all the 5 senses is decided by the situation in which you find yourself, and the situation demands the coordination of 1, 2, 3 or all the senses. And so they are all independent ones. What I am trying to emphasize now and always and put across is that this body is only interested in response to the stimuli. The statement that this is responding to the stimulus is also a questionable thing, because you have no way of experiencing except through the help of the knowledge that is given to us that this particular response is the response to a particular sensation. Otherwise, the response to the stimulus and the response to that stimulus is a unitary movement, and you have no way of separating it. So as a matter of fact, the eyes are looking at one thing, the listening mechanism is listening to something, and the sense of touch is involved in the sense of touch. So all these are all independent activities. There is no way that you can create the totality of your body here and sit here and experience the totality of the body. What you experience there and tell yourself and tell me as the totality of your body is born out of your imagination. You see, so if you want to experience your body here, the only way you can experience it is through the help of the sensory activity. The eyes are looking at it. The sense of looking does not tell me that, you see, it is, you see, a body, and that it is Dr. Mishlove that is sitting there. It does not say anything, you see, about your body, except that it is reflecting the body on the retina.
Yes.
The light that falls on you activates these optic nerves, and the optic nerves throw the image on the retina, and it does not say that it is a man, that it is a human being, that it is Dr. Mishlove. It doesn't say anything except the reflection of the object on the retina. And in this process, the activity of the optic nerves also activate the neurons there in your brain, which we call memory, and tells you that, you see, that you are a man and not a woman, that you are a human being and not an animal, and so on and so forth. But these perceptions are so quick that there is no need for the memory to come into operation and capture it and say that you are a man. I don't know if I make myself clear.
I don't know if you're describing an organic process or a mechanical process here.
I'm only describing the organic process, which is not different from the mechanical process. We are not ready to accept the fact that that is only a robot there, a mechanical thing, a computer with an extraordinary intelligence of its own, and the acquired intellect which we are so proud of is no match to that. So
but even the idea of a computer or a robot is also just a thought, just an idea.
For us it is, but I have to use the word computer to give you a feel about, you see, the idea that we have that there is something more than, you see, there is a spirit, there is a soul, there is a psyche, that there is a mind, and so on and so forth.
What you're doing, in effect, is denying that there's a spiritual nature.
This is an invention of thought.
Uh-huh.
See, the
Well,
thought,
within the realm of thought, then...
in the realm of thought, the thought has created the materialistic values and spiritual values.
Mm-hmm.
That thought is the creation of what is a society, culture, or whatever you
Well,
want.
you may... Would it be fair
All
to
right.
say, then, our spiritual nature does exist within the realm of thought?
What I am suggesting is that the spiritual goal and the demand to achieve your spiritual goals are also materialistic in their nature.
Yes.
Because the instrument which you are using is thought, which is matter. You see? So, you just say that it is a spiritual goal and that spiritual values are higher than the materialistic goals and the materialistic values, but the instrument which you are using to achieve your spiritual goals are also materialistic in their nature.
Well, I would think it's debatable whether thought is matter. I don't really know. But...
See, it is debatable when you consider thought or think of thought as a thought, you see, as matter or not matter. But is there a thought? The question itself is absurd and ridiculous because of the assumption, or we assume that there is such a thing as thought. So if you want to find out for yourself and by yourself, is there a thought? The question itself is absurd because of the assumption that there is such a thought. And what you find is all about thought but not thought. See, I don't know if I make myself clear.
Well, that's a very subtle thought.
You see, you have to do that with me, you see. All right, you see. Do you think that there is a thought there? What is there is only the question, do you think?
But isn't that a thought?
That's all that's there, but there is no other thought other than this question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a thought, or do you think that there is a thought? Thought is this, thought is that, thought is not this, thought is matter, thought is not matter, thought is space, thought is not space, thought is time, not time.
Yeah.
That's all. We can indulge in this frivolity of arguing and debating for hours and hours and hours, but we don't get anywhere because what we are indulging in is nothing but a dialectical thinking about thinking itself.
Well, what you're
and
saying,
this helps us to sharpen that instrument and carry on this discussion on and on and on and on.
Well, is it like masturbation?
I used a very refined word, a dialectical thinking about thinking itself.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to use that word, I'm ready to go along with it.
You seem to be suggesting that it doesn't, we get nowhere. It's like a dog chasing its tail.
Its own tail. Its own tail.
T.S. Eliot.
Or I would put it in a different way. You are trying to overtake your own shadow, but you really don't know or don't realize, don't want to know, and ask this question, what is it that is casting the shadow? It's the light there. Without that, there is no shadow there. So instead of questioning the shadow itself, the materiality of the shadow, for some reason you want to overtake the shadow. You are not going to succeed.
Well, let's talk more about the light.
The light, when I use the word light, I don't mean any divine light or spiritual light. The light that is there. Without that light, I see nothing here. Mm-hmm. If I see anything, it is only the product of my imagination. Mm-hmm. So, to be able to see you, I need the light. You see, so the thought is a self-generated one. It is generated by the stimulus of that light. You see, so that light stimulates, as I said a while ago, and brings the thought into operation and tells me that, you see, that is a camera and that you are a man, that's a cord, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. This is a microphone. Yeah. So what is so marvelous about, you see, this naming and recognition, that's all that we are indulging in. Mm-hmm. The frivolity of naming and recognizing things. So if you do not know a thing about what is going on outside and what is going on inside, you as you know yourself, you as you experience yourself, is coming to an end. That is the situation which you are not ready to face up to. So you keep on this dialogue with yourself, the communication with yourself, and tell yourself all the time that I am this, that I am not that I am happy, that I am not unhappy, that I am bored, that I am not bored, and so on and so forth. But actually there is no difference between the outside and the inside. So why do you have to constantly carry on this dialogue, this conversation with yourself, to maintain the continuity of your thought?
Rather than to face annihilation.
You are projecting a situation called annihilation. There may not be any annihilation at all, because when once the thought is not there, when once you are not there, you, the product of all the experiences and thoughts, when you are not there, you are no way of finding out what you are left with, and you wouldn't call it an annihilation at all. You are not there anymore, so you have no separate, independent existence of your own. So you are part of the totality of things. You and the nature is one single unit.
Now, U.G, you seem to be suggesting that there's just a little hair maybe separating all of us from enlightenment, and that hair is our fear of annihilation.
The fear you are talking about, have you ever experienced fear at any time? Because you see, what is fear after all? Where is that fear? What is fear? Well, the fear of something coming to an end. Yeah. The fear of you as you know yourself, you as you experience yourself coming to an end. So you do not want the fear to come to an end. If the fear comes to an end, you will drop dead here. Physical, clinical death will take place here. It is not in your interest to demand the fear to come to an end. So you play with that, you see, fear. So you don't condemn it. Don't identify yourself with fear. Don't do this. You see, you become one with the fear. You become choicelessly aware. You live with the fear. You see, all these techniques, all the therapeutic cults that have come into the marketplace, each one trying to sell his own particular theory, is only perpetuating the fear and not trying to help you to free yourself from fear, because it is something which you do not want to free yourself from, and it is not in your interest that the fear should come to an end. So you do not want the fear to come to an end.
And do you experience fear?
No, the fear, there is nothing there to come to an end at all. Probably if you see a cobra there, I am not an innocent child, you see, you step back. So then you see the fear that you see it will kill you or it will kill somebody else is absent there. Then you take a walk with the cobra and sing songs with the cobra, and you will be surprised what a delightful creation, what a marvelous piece of creation that cobra is, and you will never hurt that, because hurting that is hurting yourself. Killing that cobra is killing yourself. And what gives you this situation where you are so ruthless and wipe out all these living organisms is the idea that you are superior and that the whole thing is created for your use. And that is why we have created this problem in this world. I am talking all the time.
Well, you were quoted once in a magazine article in India as saying that you thought perhaps a cabbage was more alive than a human being.
You see, do you know that you are alive?
I believe I do.
As long as you have a knowledge of that, you have no way of experiencing the living quality of that. Not that I know or that I experience, that I am a superior being. The demand to experience something living is impossible for the dead structure. The thought is dead. It is not a living thing. What gives you the illusion is that, you see, we are trying to invest thought with life. And we imagine that it is a living thing, but actually it is a dead thing, you see. It is about thought is dead. So a dead thing cannot capture something living. If by accident you step on a live wire, you are dead, you are finished. You see, only by accident you can step on, you see, touch life at a point where nobody touched before. And so you see, then from that moment onwards, what is living there expresses itself without the use of thought. So in that sense I say you will be more useful to nature dead than alive, because you are living in the world of ideas, you are living in the world of thoughts, you are putting ideas into your stomach, and you are wearing names. So you are not living at all, you see.
It's as if you're saying that our ideas are like our clothing, like our hair or our fingernails. They're not living tissue.
Now they are not living at all. They are all dead ideas passed on to by somebody who has come out with his fantasies and ideas. You know, I watch many of your commercials here. I am not plugging in any particular thing, but it is something extraordinary. See, something extraordinary, because they cannot sell anything to me, you know, but I am not interested in the products they are selling, but the way they are selling is something extraordinary. I am always fascinated by these commercials and not by the programs. They put me to sleep. So I have become awake when I see a commercial. I never buy anything that they are selling. You see, if they had, you see, viewers like me, you see, clients like me, they would be out of business. But you see, here there is one who is admiring the way they are selling, you see, the products. That always fascinates me.
Because of what? Why does that fascinate you?
The sales speech, the sales talk, you see. Now they have all taken over the religious teachers. You see, they were selling all these products to us. Now Madison Avenue has taken over. I'm not plugging in for Madison Avenue at all, you see. They do a better job than all these holy men who are selling us a shoddy piece of spiritual goods.
Well, do you think there are any holy men, any saints, any teachers anywhere worth listening to?
I wouldn't go to anybody because I do not want anything from anybody. So if there is any other holy man, it is not my concern, it is not my interest at all.
Well, what about the notion of spiritual?
I am not interested in freeing anybody from anybody. You see, you know, what they are interested in is some sort of a drug to put them to sleep. I am telling them all the time, look here, you are awake. This awakeness is something which you do not want. So you want to put yourself to sleep. And so all these techniques of meditation, the techniques of yoga, the techniques of breathing, God knows how many techniques the people in this country have come up with. They are all putting you to sleep, because why you don't want to stay awake? You are already awake. So the whole idea of bringing about this awakeness in you is so funny and so foolish and so idiotic that we all fall for this and buy all those things and try to awaken ourselves. Actually, we are putting ourselves to sleep because this awakeness is something that we don't want.
U.G, in my lifetime, I grew up in a small town in the middle of the Midwest of the United States, and I had a feeling then in my youth that there was a slumber there, that people were locked into their attitudes and into their values and into their lifestyle, and that I needed to leave.
Where did you get all those things from? They brainwashed us. They made us to believe that, you see. We have been fed on that kind of a bunk for centuries. If the diet were to be changed, we would all die of starvation. So you are only replacing those things, you see, with something from outside. That is what I am not opposed to. That what irks me is, why do you have to import all these things from outside? If religion is all that you are interested in, what is it that you don't find in your Bible? What is it that you don't find in your Talmud? Why do you have to import all those people from outside who are selling you some shoddy piece of spiritual goods? What is wrong with your hymns? I am not for a moment saying go back to Christ or back to your church or any such. There is no question of going back, you see. So anybody who says revive, go back, is one who cannot offer us anything new. You see, all the old people in our families, they always talk about their past because they have no future to think about or talk about. They always talk about the past. Any nation, any individual, any teacher who wants to revive the dead past is already dead because he has nothing new to offer. Why do we have to go back? Why do you make it impossible for somebody, something new to come up there? And see, somebody asked me a question, All these young people are lost. They don't know what to do with yours. You have made a mess of your life already, and you are going to pass on what has not helped you to the younger generation. If they make a mess of the world, let them make a mess of the world. They are going to learn. It is their world. You tell everybody we are all here, we are interested. The world is the future for the future generations. They don't let these future generations living here now to have a say in these matters. It is for them to decide their future, and we have nothing to do with it. What has not helped us is not going to help anybody. All the lies, all the beliefs, they have not helped us. Why want to pass them on to them? If they make a mess of the whole world, you see, let them make a mess of the whole world. We have made a mess of the whole world. We have no reason to be proud of what we have created. This is not a political talk or anything.
Let me just shift a little bit.
All right, we go back.
You are an enigma. You've been described as a guru. You deny it. You've been described as a philosopher. You deny that. People want to attribute the qualities of enlightenment to you. You deny that. But one characteristic which you have accepted is that you're a world traveler. You haven't denied that.
That I haven't denied. I don't know. It is not because I'm restless or anything. Ever since I was 14, I have never lived in any place for 6 months at a stretch. I have seen practically every part of the globe except some Pacific and Caribbean islands and China. But there was a time when I wanted to tell myself, you see, I have been there, please don't talk about it. Your visits to the Greece, or the glory of the Greece and the grandeur of the Rome, the splendor of this country. I have also been there. I spent only 3 hours in the pyramids there. That was enough for me. So I can tell myself and tell others, I have been there. So I have never been interested in anything past, anything dead. So that was my problem. I was hungering, wanting to find out for myself and by myself. See, the question of enlightenment obsessed me, if I may use that word. Nothing else interested me. I was lucky enough to be born into a very wealthy family. I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth, and so many silver spoons came along my way. So that made it easy for me to pursue. And I tried so hard. I looked everywhere. Nobody satisfied me. See, nobody satisfied my hunger to find out the answer. Is there any such thing as enlightenment? Was Buddha an enlightened man? Is that man who claims to be an enlightened man is an enlightened man? What is it that he has I don't have? Whatever he is telling me is false, and it is falsifying me. Be selfless. What the hell do you want me to be selfless? I am a selfish being to the very core of being. And you want me to be selfless. You see, it is that, the idea of selflessness that has turned me into a selfless man. You are telling me that I should be free from anger. Why should I be free from anger? Anger is a tremendous outburst of energy. You are not dealing with the anger there. You are not dealing with pleasure. You are not dealing anything that that is happening there inside of me. I am interested in finding out whatever is there inside of me cannot be false. Whatever you are telling me is false. But somehow I didn't have the certainty to brush the whole thing aside. Maybe that fellow knows what he is talking about. Maybe he has something which I don't have. Nothing satisfied my hunger, you see. So then they give you a small piece of bread, and then the brown bread, the stone ground bread. Nothing satisfied me. So what happened? The hunger burnt itself out. You see, the freedom that I wanted, the very demand to be free is not there anymore for me. It's not that I have found the answer for that. You see, there is no self to realize. I have spent 49 years of my life searching for the self. It is not there. So they can all go. You see, now the certainty that I have, all that is false. It does not mean that I feel superior and place myself on a higher pedestal and tell myself you are the most superior of all that. Not for a moment. That is false, and I do not want that to falsify me. This certainty I have stumbled into. is something which cannot be transmitted to somebody.
You say you stumbled into it, and you say it has nothing to do with this intense search.
Nothing. You see, the intensity is an emotional thing. The insights I had through these encounters with others strengthened and fortified the very thing that I was trying to free myself from. It did not help me anyway. So nothing I did helped me. So I have to use the word stumbled into, because I don't know how this dawned on me that there is nothing to understand, you see. That is not the instrument, and there is no other instrument. There is nothing to understand.
Well, would you have done just as well to have remained in the small village?
That is a hypothetical question, you see. I must admit that my contact with the West opened, you see, great horizons for me.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I studied both Eastern and Western philosophies thoroughly for my master's degree and psychology. But nothing helped me, because this question, the basic question, is there any such thing as mind? Why you are talking of silent mind? Why you are talking of the mutation of mind? There is no such thing as mutation of mind. There is nothing there to be transformed. There is nothing there to be changed. So why this talk of transformation, radical or otherwise? All that is absolute gibberish, absolute rubbish, poppycock, as it means. But yet, you see, I lacked this certainty. So how I stumbled into it, how it happened, why it happened, when it happened, has anything happened to me, I really don't know. So whatever I am trying to put across is all an expression of what I stumbled into. So I can't sit here and give a talk, you see, on the same subject like anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I go one step further and say that, you see, despite everything, whatever happened to me, and it is possible for a rapist, a murderer, a con man, thief man to stumble into this kind of a thing more than, you see, all those spiritual aspirants put together.
It seems very ironic.
Ironic, but nevertheless, the fact does remain so.
Uh-huh. So in a sense, anybody who might be viewing this program right now with the idea that they're going to get anything out of it whatsoever to help them along in the path of enlightenment.
So if they are interested in solving their personal problems, there are umpteen number of techniques they have to go there. So this is something which cannot be used to solve the day-to-day problems. You see, so I have no illusions that this will be, or it can be of any help to anybody to solve their day-to-day problems.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are not really interested in solving the problems. They are not interested in freeing themselves from fear. See, you know. So all these techniques, be one with fear, live with fear, accept fear, be choicelessly aware of fear. This is all, you see, taking you away from the fact of facing up to the situation that there is no way you can free yourself from fear. I'm not for a moment suggesting that you should live with fear. What is there, what you call you, is born out of fear. It thrives in fear. It lives in fear. So it cannot voluntarily liquidate itself, free itself from fear. So it has no solutions for the day-to-day problems of the people. It has no solution for the problems of the world. It has no social contact.
But you know, it just seems as if the pattern of your life, as I look at it, does fit perhaps a classical pattern. And it's the pattern of struggling, of agonizing, of really pushing yourself on the path and reaching a point of despair, of frustration, and then giving up, then letting go.
No, you see, the despair is the solution. You see, we are not dealing with despair at all. So we are not dealing with anger. We are not dealing with greed. There is no point in giving discourses on greed, or how to be free from greed, or how to be free from pleasure, how to be free from despair. Because despair is something which you cannot separate yourself from. You are dealing with how to be free from despair, but not despair itself, you see. So the answer to your despair is in despair itself, and not in how to be free from despair. So you are only thinking about despair and not doing anything with it. That applies to all the things that we are trying to be free from.
In other words, rather than vainly seeking for enlightenment or seeking for love or seeking for all of these beautiful concepts that we have, you're suggesting that we just grab reality by the teeth, so to speak, in all of its sordidness. And
it is not a question of grabbing it, it's not a question of capturing it, containing it and giving expression to it, but that reality that is already there has to express itself in its own way. How it will express itself, you wouldn't know, I wouldn't know. Mm-hmm. There is nothing to be done about it. Whatever we are doing is the one that is preventing something living that is there to express itself in its own way. Mm-hmm. So no two human individuals, no two human beings are the same. The culture is interested in fitting everybody into a common mold. You see, if you look at the leaves, you see, I was a student of botany. I studied the leaves, you see, in a microscope. No two leaves are the same. No two human beings are the same. Now they are doing tremendous amount of research. Now they are beginning to realize their motivation is to track down criminals, not to understand the functioning of the human body. They know now in a way, you see, that no two human bodies are the same. Your hair, you see, if it is dissolved into its constituent elements, you will be surprised that your hair is quite different from my hair. And now they have come out with, you see, with a peculiar statement that women have more gold in the hair than men. You see,
more gold
in the hair than men. I don't know it. I can't make any definitive statements about it. No two human bodies are the same. No two human individuals are the same. The demand of the culture, the society, or whatever you want to call it, to fit all of them in a common mold and produce, you see, the same kind of people is not going to succeed in the long run. Probably we may not live long to achieve our goals. So who knows? I don't know.
So and this must be one of the dangers then of spiritual traditions.
It is not that will help us. What will help us to live together peacefully is a terror, not love thy neighbor thyself, because if you try to destroy your enemy, you will go with him. If you hurt your enemy physically, it will hurt you. Not psychologically, not emotionally, not romantically, not poetically. If you step on the toes of somebody, you see, he is going to step on your toes. That we have, in a way, understood in the international field in relationship with the superpowers. You see, you can no longer talk in terms of massive retaliation. You have to live with your adversaries, you have to live with your enemies, you have to live with, you see, the one who is trying, you see, to hurt you. But then probably we will understand that, you see, if you try to destroy your neighbor, you are going to destroy yourself. Maybe that will help us to live together in peace, but not love thy neighbor as thyself. Mm-hmm. I'm giving a talk.
Well, you sound sort of like the 18th century British philosophers like John Locke and Thomas Hobbes, who talked about the social contract and humanity as being a leviathan, a dragon inside, and that we had to face this sort of evil quality.
You are talking as if humanity is out there. Mm-hmm. You see, the demand for permanence of society, humanity, is the demand for permanence here. What I am saying is that there is no such thing as permanence. The demand for permanence is the cause of man's misery. The demand for permanence in relationship, the demand for permanence of happiness, the demand for permanent pleasure is the cause of man's misery. So since you know in a way that you, as you know yourself, and you, as you experience yourself, is coming to an end, you see, as an idea, mm-hmm. You know that one day you are going to die, but not as a fact, you see, not as a reality, but as you see, an idea that you are also going to die like, you see, all those who died before. Mm-hmm. So you project the demand for permanence on mankind, that mankind must be permanent, must be there, and you should do everything possible to see that humanity survives. That is born out of the demand for permanence. So we are not going to succeed in the long run because there is no such thing as permanence in any relationships, in any demands that we are interested in maintaining the permanence.
U.G., we have only about 5 minutes left.
Right.
But
sum it up.
I don't want to do that yet. I
Why not?
want to get into something a little more personal, something
All right.
that you told me once about yourself, that you had experienced physical death.
You see, yesterday there was one lady who visited me and asked me a question. I want to live in this moment passionately. That was her question.
Yes.
I said, you have to be dead now. You see, you can't live unless you go through this process, not dying to your poetic, romantic yesterdays or psychological death, but the totality of man's thoughts, experiences, and feelings that are passed on to us from generation to generation. Then what is left there begins to express itself. From that moment onward, you have no existence of your own, separate, independent existence of your own at all. So you are part of the totality of things, you see. From then on, this is a single unit. The nature and you are not separate. But when I make such statements, it is not that I myself can experience, you can't experience the totality or the singleness of nature and you, but the demand to experience is not there anymore.
Yeah.
So in other words, there is no such thing as death at all. What is there is the fear of something coming to an end. What is it? That will come to an end. The fear of something coming to an end. What is there that will come to an end? There is nothing there. There is no entity there now. So what do you think will come to an end? The demand to maintain, the demand for permanence of something that is not there coming to an end can be described as death, you see. The condition of the body. We use the word and call it a dead body because it is not responding to the stimuli the way we think the living body is responding to the stimuli. But you yourself do not know that you are responding to the stimuli. You say that I am talking, that I am full of animation, that I am coming out with all these concepts. I have no way of knowing whether I am saying anything here. What is all this noise coming out? It's just a noise. You seem to make some sense out of it, and it is good. Otherwise, we can't function sanely and intelligently in this world. We have to accept the reality of things as it is, as they are imposed on us. Otherwise, we will all end up in a loony bin singing loony tunes and merry melodies. We have to accept the reality of the world as functional in their value. But the moment you try to understand the reality of anything, let alone the ultimate reality, you are lost forever.
Well, you seem to be suggesting a pragmatic approach to life and letting go of these philosophical abstractions, except as games for the sharpening of the intellect.
That's all that is the part that philosophy plays in our life, to sharpen that instrument, you see. So you are not interested in accepting the fact that there is no foundation for your logical thinking. There is no foundation for your rationality. Whoever said that man is a rational being deluded himself and deluded us all. Our actions do not show any rationality, any logicality in our functioning. I don't know if there is any such word as logicality. We don't see logic in our lives. We don't see that our lives are run on logic. I don't know if it...
Well, U.G, we're just about out of time, and I'm in the paradoxical position of saying how much I've enjoyed being with you. And in a sense, I say that, and I know that you probably, or you may be thinking to yourself, there's nothing to enjoy.
No, I'll just tell you, thank you very much indeed.
Okay. And thank you for being with me.
Thank you. I don't know, we talked a lot. Really, what if you put it on paper, or if you try to listen to that, it won't make any sense. It's my idea, is not idea. If there is a purpose or if there is any motivation in these dialogues, it is only to leave the other individual with this enigma, with the paradox. And he has to resolve the problem for himself and by himself.
Thank you for sharing the paradox with us.